In this video, we are going to continue on with our wood structure. One of the first things we're going to do is we need to go in and we need to fix a few things. So that's what we're going to do first, and then we'll get started on the wall construction. One of the first things I want you to do is I want you to cut a section through each of your 4 sides of your building. When I went back and looked at mine, I had some issues with things not aligning properly. So it's very important that you get everything aligned properly before you move on to the next part of the project. So what you should have is you should have your footing, you should have your foundation wall, you should have your 2x8 sill plate, you should have your 2x12 floor joist, and then you should have your subfloor on top of that. So make sure and check all 4 walls to make sure everything is in alignment here and that yours looks similar to mine. In the last video, we discovered that we were not level with our level 1. So what I want to do is I want to get this put back where it is supposed to be. So the first thing over here, this is just kind of a big mess. And if you look down here at the bottom left corner, we're at 1/8 inch equals a foot. If we come up here to the view scale and we change this to 1/2 inch equals a foot and we hit apply, now we can read those numbers a lot better. Typically when you're looking or doing a section, you're going to do it at a much larger scale. So the very first thing I want to do, if you recall, we tied a lot of things to the top of the footing and the top of the foundation. I'm looking at this as a teachable moment, as I had made a mistake on my math, which probably doesn't surprise any of you. The teachable moment in this is that I am going to get to show you how to fix it very easily. And again, this is why it's important to constrain things to certain levels. So the very first thing is I figured out that I'm 1/2 inch off. So I need to make this 5'7" and a half. And then this one, I need to make 4'9" and a half. I want to make this -1 foot, 1 and a half. And now everything up here moved down because I had it tied to my top of foundation. So I very quickly fixed my issue. This just goes to show you that we do make mistakes, but luckily we were able to catch this one early on and we were able to fix it very quickly. Again, a wonderful teaching moment. Here is another situation that I would hope that you had realized. This one I actually did intentionally. We had shown our 2x12 floor joist spanning 40 feet. Hopefully you realize that a floor joist cannot span 40 feet. If it did, you would have a lot of deflection and your floor materials such as your tile would pop up, your furniture would not set level, things would roll off the cabinets. There could be all kinds of things. Again, typically your engineer is going to tell you what it needs to be, but right here, here's a floor joist table. And we were going to use 2x12s. And you want to look over here where it says maximum span. The maximum span, we did ours at 24 inches on center. So really we can't go any more than 14 feet 4 inches. I wouldn't even want to go 20 feet with them 12 inches on center. So let's look at doing 16 inches on center, and our maximum span then is going to be 17 feet 7 inches. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to change those floor joists. And again, because we did them as a beam system, we can make that happen very easily. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go in and add some intermediate supports under those where they come together, because you can't just butt them up to each other and hope that they just stay together. You have to put some kind of support underneath them where they come together to carry that load through there. So that is the first thing we're going to do, is change our spacing on our beams. So to change our floor joist spacing, the easiest thing to do is to go to your 3D view and then pick your subfloor. Make sure it says subfloor over here, and then right click and do hide in view elements. That way we can actually see all of our joists. And now if I put my cursor over here, you'll notice like if I do one right here, it just picks the one joist, but if I kind of come out this way, you see it picks all of them. So if I pick those, all I have to do is come over here and change this to 16 inches on center and hit apply. And now you see it just automatically updated it. How awesome is that? Just think if you had to go and make that change in AutoCAD, how long that would take you to do that. And then all I have to do is come down here to the light bulb, and I can grab that floor again, and I can say unhide element and close that window. So that one was very, very easy to fix. The next thing we've got to do is we've got to put in some intermediate supports in here to support the spans that we were looking at on the chart. According to the chart, our maximum span for a 2x12 floor joist at 16 inches on center, which is what we just changed ours to, is 17 feet 7 inches. Our building in one direction is 40 feet and in the other direction is 60 feet. So we need to add some intermediate supports to be able to break these floor joists and support them, because otherwise, again, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to have sagging floors and lots of issues. So in the 40-foot direction, we need to divide that by 3. So we'll have 2 rows of supports running in the 60-foot direction. In the 60-foot direction, we're going to add 3 rows of supports to be able to carry the load. Now, you could just come in and put in another foundation wall with a footing, but that costs a lot of money to do, so we don't really want to do that. So what we are going to actually do is we are going to come in and create some little columns underneath our support areas that we need to have the supports. These columns are going to have first a footing that is 24 inches by 24 inches by 10 inches deep. So it's a square that is 24 inches by 24 inches and 10 inches under that column. The column is going to be a 10-inch round concrete column. On top of that, we will have a 2x10 plate, and then we will break at our distances our 2x12s with 2 2x12 joists for that intermediate support, and then our subfloor will just continue across that. So this is kind of what we're getting ready to do. So I'm going to go back to my structural plan to my top of footing, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to place a column in here. Once I get the columns placed, it's very easy to add the footing and the remainder of the pieces. So I'm going to start there, and I'm going to go to structure, and I'm going to go to column, and I'm going to go to load family. We would come down here to structural columns, and you see you have concrete, and then if you go in there you see that you have a round column. So that is what we're going to go with, is a concrete round column. So if I double click on that, it brings it into my drawing. I have already created one. Yours is probably came in as like a 12-inch. So we need to modify that to be a 10-inch, which I have already done. So you would just go into edit type, duplicate the name and make it 10 inches and change this dimension to be 10 inches. Once you have done that, you are ready to place it. And you can see I have placed mine. If I zoom in on that, you'll see the base level is bottom of footing, which I really want the base level to be at top of footing. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the top level because I want it to be at the top of my foundation. So I'm going to change that there. Now the base level I am going to change to my top of footing, and I'm going to say apply. So now I have a column. If we go and look at this three-dimensionally, and I scroll around to where I can see below, you can see I have a nice round column. So I'm going to go back to my top of footing plan, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to copy it from here to just here right now, and I want to have 3 equal spaces in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to my annotate tab and do my dimensions, and I want to pick the inside of this foundation wall, not my footing, This is my foundation over here. And then I want to go to the center point of my column, and then I want to go to the center point of my column, and again I want to pick my foundation wall. And then I can click on the equal sign, and now it put it equally in here the way that I wanted it. So that is great. So the next thing I need to do is I need to divide my space this direction. So I said I wanted 3 columns in here. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my modify, and I'm going to go to copy, and I'm going to grab these, and I'm going to do copy, and I want to copy multiple because I'm going to copy from here to here and then down to here. Again, I'm going to go and use my dimension tool and do aligned. Again, I want to come from the foundation wall, not the footing wall, and to the midpoint, and to the midpoint, and to the midpoint, and back to my foundation wall. And I'm going to place that, and again I'm going to click on my equal, and now they should all be placed equally. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these dimensions out of here so you have a better idea. I also received the warning over here, and I just need to unconstrain my items. Now that I remove those dimension lines, I see that I have not moved the other row of columns, so I need to do the same thing. And hit my equal sign again, and now they should all be aligned. I should have no spaces that are larger than 17 feet 7. So now I have placed my columns. Next, I want to place my footings. So if I go to structure and I go to isolated, it's going to probably tell you you need to load family. So you're going to go to load family, and you're going to scroll down to structural foundations, and you want to pick just the footing rectangular and say open. As you can see, this is a really large footing, and we said according to our information that we looked at earlier, we wanted a 24 inch by 24 inch by 10 inch. The choices we have are way larger, so we need to edit type, and we want to do duplicate, and we're going to change this to 24 inches, 24 inches, and we wanted ours to be 10 inches deep, and say OK. And then here we need to change the thickness to 10 inches, and then this needs to be 2 feet, and this needs to be 2 feet, and say OK. Now we have our 24 inch by 10 inch footing, and I want the level to be top of footing, and I'm going to scroll over here, and I'm just going to place one of these for now before I place all of them, and I want to do a 3D view to make sure it came in where I wanted it to, and it looks really good. So I'm going to go ahead and continue and place these. Again, I'm just going to go back to my structure tab, isolate it, I already have it, and again I'm just going to pick the center point of each of my columns and place this. Looking at this from the plan view, right now we have 2x12s running continually this way, and we've placed some supports this way to help break up that load span between each one of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 2x12s running this direction at the same level as our joists, so that they can come into that column support and have something to tie into and set on top of those columns. And again, we can't span our 2x12s all the way this direction, so we'll span one set from here to here, one set from here to here, one set from here to here, etc. So they rest in each direction on these columns. To make this a little easier to understand what's going on, I'm going to move this section mark up, and I'm going to drag this out and this out, And I'm actually going to go to my section so you can see what I'm talking about. If I change my view to fine, you'll see right here is my 2x12 that's running in the 40-foot direction. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this right here. Now we are not actually going to go in and break ours because I don't want to spend the time doing that. But they would actually stop at this location, and these two 2x12s that we're going to run back in the other direction would be placed there. The next thing I'm going to do before I go any further is I'm going to go ahead and pull this out to where I can see the next column, and I'm going to do something to make things go just a little bit faster for me. I'm going to grab this 8x2 that we did at the perimeter, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go from its midpoint to the midpoint of my column. What we wanted was an actual 2x10 or a 10x2 in this case, so it lays the way that we want it. So I'm going to pick this, and I'm going to go to edit type, and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to make it a 10x2. And I'm going to say okay. A 2x10 is going to be 9 1/4 by 1 1/2, so I'm going to change that to that, and I'm going to say okay. And now you see it got bigger. I'm going to grab this one. Now I already have my 10x2, and I'm going to pick it. So we very quickly added those on there. I need to go back to my plan, and this time I'm going to go to my top of foundation plan, and I can actually see those now. Here is that 10x2 and the other 10x2, and they should go all the way to my foundation wall. Again, I want to check that, so I'm just going to pull this little section mark over, and I'm going to go to that section and change this to fine, and there you can see it doesn't come all the way over, so I need to align these. And then probably I have the same situation at the other end. And I'm doing it in my section because in my plan view I have so many lines in that view, it's just really hard to tell if it's going all the way or not. And now if I click on it, again it needs to come all the way over to this 2x material. So I'm going to do my align, and I'm going to align those elements, and then I'll need to go back and do that on the other one. So again, I'm just going to grab this and drag it over, and instead of creating multiple sections, I am just doing one section mark on that side, and I can move it around to wherever I need it to be. So again, I'm going to align these. And the same at the other end. If I go back to my plan and the original section we were looking at, now I have my footing, I have my columns, and I have my 2x10s or my 10x2s. The next thing I need to do, if we look back at our section, is we need to add these 2x12s running in the other direction. I'm going to go back to my top of foundation plan under my structural tab. What I'm wanting to do is on top of where these are is where I want to run my 2x12s. Right here is my 2x12 that I have on the perimeter. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy these because they're at the right height, they're right where I want them, and I want like this point to be at the midpoint here. So now I have that 2x12, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here. And now I need to place another one on the other side of it. So again, I am going to select that one, and I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to use my copy again, and I'm just going to copy from this point to this point. Now I should have my 2x12s in there where I need them. If I go back and look at my section, You'll see now I have my 2x12s, and in reality this 2x12 would break at each of these points, and we could do that, and you're welcome to do that if you want to. I just don't want to have to spend time going into each joist and do that. Now if I look back at my top of foundation, now I have joists running all the way through here. So again, these would need to break and set on top of my columns. I'm not going to do that again for the sake of time. If I go now and I look at my 3D view and I look underneath it, you can see that I have my 2x12s running this direction, and I have my column and my footing. So we have corrected our span issues that we had created. If I hide the floor, you can see my two 2x12s running in this direction. And like I said, these ones running this direction would be broken at this location. And then where this one sits on top of the column, again, it would be broken in that direction. Now that we have everything corrected, we are now ready to add our wall framing. So that will be in the next video.